Good morning. We want to work on the interpreting parables, and this is quite interesting part in uh, hermeneutics, because whenever we want to say this and that, we sometimes use, actually many times use uh, kind of examples or similar stories so we can persuade people easily and for the audience better understanding. So that's why we can say those are parables, kind of short stories supporting the main idea. Okay, and there are uh, quite some parables in the Bible, both in the Old Testament and New Testament, and so we want to know how what the parables are and how we're gonna interpret those, because um, as I said, I want to just say one main idea. Here's the main idea. Okay, this is what I want to say. All right. So for supporting the main idea, I want to use a story. Okay, as an example. So it can that makes the main idea easy to understood. Okay. Uh, So which is more easier to understand, main idea or the example? Examples, because we are using the stories and kind of that's also called the parables. So we are using this for supporting that. So these are supposed to be easier to understood uh, than the main idea, okay? Because those are supporting the main idea. What if you use the kind of parables? Parables the audience can understand easily. That is wrong parables. Those are wrong parables. Those are wrong examples and stories, and that's stupid actually, because we want to use those for supporting the main idea. If you understand this, and then you can understand this easily. Okay. So, but what if you don't understand even the parables? And you got in trouble. You don't understand this, and you don't understand the main idea. It's hard to say that you can understand the main idea, but you don't understand parables. That doesn't make sense, because again we are using the easier way to understand the main idea. All right. Okay. So, the understanding and interpreting parables are quite important. And then I want to just mention this, before we just get into it, because you understand the parables, but but sometimes people are using those parables for this main idea for something else, and that can be wrong way you can use parables. Well, it can be okay. You can use those parables for supporting something else, as long as that works, okay? But by doing so, you can misunderstand those parables for supporting this main. All right. So I want to just mention that much, and then as we just study on this, we can understand what I mentioned at this time. All right. So number one, introduction to parables. Where does the term parable come from? Parable. Parable is plus 발로. Okay? Para or para. Like, the parachurch. Like, there is a church and there are parachurches. Okay? Parachurches, I mean, you know what the churches are, right? And parachurches means like mission organizations. Those are not churches, but they are working for evangelizing, okay, spreading the gospels. That's what churches are doing too, and that's one of the most crucial goal and function for the churches. But parachurches means it's not real church, but they are working, they are doing similar things what churches do. Okay, so parachurches and mission organizations like and kind of shelters, buy and food banks. So they are just distributing food for to the homeless or the poor, but at the same time they want to just spread the gospel. By doing so, but churches, the conventional churches are not focusing on the food bank, but the church, the original, traditional churches are focusing on worshiping and koinonia kind of relationships, something like that. The main, education, Bible education, right? Spiritual, and those things. But parachurches are focusing on certain things like mission and shelters and food banks or something like that. Okay, all right. So para means around the main thing. I'm not saying those are not important. Those are not main things for Christians. They are focusing on certain things, and those are very important. And we churches want to work with parachurches. Actually, parachurches are getting support a lot. Lots of support from churches, and church members, and they usually participate to those parachurch works. Okay, so para means around. Okay, and balo, those are from Greeks, and balo means through. Balo means through. Okay, so when you have a target like this, you're gonna throw a stone to the bullseye, okay? But it's like throwing around. It's not I'm not saying those are missing the targets. No, I'm not saying that. Okay, those are their targets. But what we know is that churches, when we think churches means we have a certain concept that churches are this. Okay, but the para means those are very crucial things to do, but those are not traditional churches are doing and focusing on. All right. Good. Okay. Targets and drawing those stones or things around those. So there were, and they are actually parachurch movement, and lots of parachurch movement started like 60s and 70s, and it's been a long time actually, especially the mission organizations. All right, the idea then is that facts in one realm, which the hearers know, are cast alongside the facts in the spiritual realm, so that they will see by analogy or correspondence what is true in this realm. Okay, so this is the main idea. This is not, parables cannot be the main idea. Okay, so but by providing certain things for supporting the main idea, okay, and hearers can understand the main idea easily. Okay, all right. So that's what's so called parables. Okay, around stones. Okay, so throwing the stones around the main idea, you can understand the main idea. Okay, it's like you wanna just the frozen lake, and you wanna just sink that area down, and you can break those parts and make that part sink, something like that. Yeah. I know. Sometimes it's hard to use the parables, so some bad parables make hearers confused to understand the main ideas. So we need to be careful, and we need to use the parables seriously and carefully, so we can find the better way and easier way and good examples for the hearers. Okay, the definition of parable is a true to life story that illustrates a spiritual truth. Okay, thus that's what Voltaire said. Thus, a parable is something placed alongside something else for the purpose of comparison. The typical parable uses a common event of natural life to emphasize or clarify an important spiritual truth. Okay? So a parable is a true to life story that illustrates a spiritual truth. So you can understand the main idea through those parables. Okay? So parable is something placed alongside. It's not hitting the bullseyes, but hitting around the bullseyes so you can get the main idea eventually. Okay? C. Used by Jesus. He actually used lots of parables for the hearers to understand, to make them understand the main idea easily. Because especially when I think he used the parables a lot because he was teaching something else. I mean something different compared to the traditional teachers like Pharisees and subscribers and priests at the time. And sometimes Jesus criticized those people because those people were talking about and this and that, and they were, you know, they were used to boast what they were doing because they used to say, I'm fasting once a week for meditating God's words and praying. I'm just trying my best and there's no mistakes to follow God's laws. And they used to wear kind of long sleeves, which means they don't work the dirty works. If you want to work on something dirty and sweaty things, you don't wear long sleeves. You know, it's gonna be very hard to, work on something dirty, and you don't want to get your clothes and sleeves dirty. So whenever you want to work on something dirty, you just pull the sleeves up like this and work on something because you don't want to get those things dirty. So wearing those things, that means you don't work on dirty things. That means you have higher status than others. Okay. Same to the same to they used to wear one piece, like what kind of evening dress or something like that nowadays, because old people used to wear that. I can understand that, they don't want to separate because it takes more skills and energy and more clothes. So one piece is way easier for them, and then they used to use their clothes as blankets when they sleep. So same thing. But when the bottom of the cloth is too long, it's going to be hard for people to work on dirty and so blue colors at that time they were not supposed to wear long clothes and long sleeves like this. Okay, but they just raised their hands with their long sleeves cloth on, and they used to pray in the center of the markets. It's unbelievable. And then they used to pray like this: Oh Lord, thank you for blessing me. Thank you for blessing me so I don't need to be same to those sinners. That's what really they used to pray. How dare they could pray like that? No one wants to pray like that today. If you pray like those terrorists said 2,000 years ago, you're gonna get criticized by lots of people or all people, right? You don't want to pray, thank you for blessing me so I'm way richer than others. Thank you for blessing me so I could study so I'm way smarter than those dumb people, you don't want to pray like that, right? Even though you think so, you are not supposed to pray like that, right? But so when you say something new, you want to just make your hearers understand easily what you are saying, so you can just teach them something new interpretation. Okay, so Jesus' teaching was way different than others, priests, Pharisees, subscribers at the time. Okay, that's why I think Jesus used lots of parables. He wanted to provide easier examples and stories so that they could understand easily. The main idea of what really Jesus wanted to tell them. Okay? So Jesus, the master teacher, used parables regularly as he taught. The Greek word for parable occurs nearly 50 times in the Synoptic Gospels in connection with his ministry, suggesting that parables were one of his favorite teaching devices. So the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, especially the Synoptic Gospels means Matthew, Mark, Luke. Okay, because John, I mean, um, John has more spiritual words. John tried the book of John. Is about more spiritual stuff. So Synoptic Gospels means three books: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and in those three books there are 50 parables. Some are just repeated same things because those three Synoptic Gospels shared same stories, but similar but a little bit different. But anyway, basically those three books are sharing almost similar or same stories in those books, and so 50 times parables. That's a lot of parables, and Jesus used to use those things. The parables a lot for supporting his main teaching, his main idea. And I believe those parables make the hearers could understand Jesus' teachings easily, and I believe those parables enabled those hearers remember Jesus' teachings longer. When you just learn something with stories, you can remember that longer than the plain regular teachings, right? So love is helping. Okay, we all know love is helping, but when I just give you a story, like actually that is what happened last night. I just filled the gas at Costco last night around 9:10. Because they are closing at 9:30, and I that time because you don't have to line up for the gas. So I just stopped by the Costco gas station and filled the tank, and I saw elder old man, and he was just carrying a paper bag, and he just asked something to a lady, you know, there, and I heard she said no, and he came to me and he asked me to give him a ride to Thurston, which means that's kind of at 8 miles or something. But it was kind of, you know, when you want to help others, you need to be careful because you want to just secure your security first, safety first. So, and he asked me money for the food, but I didn't have the cash. Um, so he left, and Costco gas station staff, followed him, and then, keep on asking him, what he's supposed to do for the gentleman, and he just left without answering any. And after I just filled the gas and then was about to leave the gas station, and I saw him with rear mirror. So I just, um, just drove back to him, and I couldn't find him, but I noticed that he was sitting on a metal bench in front of PGA golf shop. So I just back up a little bit and asked him if he needs any food, and he said yes. So I just bought a meal from Wendy's and gave it to him. So love is helping. Well, when I say this, which is easier for you to picture? Love is helping. We all know love is helping. But because I added a story, the real story, what happened yesterday, last night, and it's gonna make you understand and feel what the love is happy is. Okay, something like that. So parables have that kind of power. You can understand easily, and you're gonna remember it longer, right? Okay, and you can get more hints or tips to practice that too. But you need to be careful because there are lots of traps and there are lots of crazy people and deceiving people, and they are looking for praise, not praise, but they want to just bite you up, so will swallow you up. So be careful. Anyway, so Jesus used parables a lot. Okay, the purpose of parables. There are many purposes of parables. Okay, number one, to conceal truths from those who do not believe. That's kind of irony, actually. Jesus used to use parables, but sometimes he used parables for concealing the truth to hearers. But he just set aside that main idea and the parables he used to all hearers, to his disciples only. And he just openly said that he used parables because he wanted to conceal and hide the truth to hearers. That was irony because we all know that people are using parables for the better understandings. Okay? It's kind of a service, but Jesus used to do that, and he just explained in Matthew chapter 13, and that was kind of shocking for those disciples too, because they were wondering why Jesus used those parables for concealing the truth. But when disciples asked Jesus to explain that, and Jesus explained those teachings and parables to his disciples, but when you read those parables and situations, you can understand those parables easily nowadays, because Jesus explained them already. But Jesus said, and he used to add one more thing on the parables, because when those things are open to some people. That means some people could understand his parables, his teachings. But most people couldn't understand what he was teaching, because he was thinking that was not the right time for the hearers to understand his teachings and parables. But later on, Jesus knew that people were going to understand what he said, because it takes time. And it was not the right time for people to understand what he was teaching. Something like that. All right. So that can be a mystery, but now we will understand what he said and why he used the parables. Number two, why the purpose of parables. Number two, to reveal truth to believers. Okay, that's what Jesus used parables. While these purposes may seem contradictory, the answer to this dilemma may lay in the nature of the hearers. That's very important. That may in the nature of the hearers. If you are active listeners, so if you want to learn something from your teacher, okay, or you are there to hear the teachings for finding any mistakes from the speakers, like that's what Pharisees and priests did, so they were there to listen to Jesus, okay? So when you have one video clip, for example, a mob just occupied a capital. That's what happened in the United States. It's kind of a sad story. And when you watch that news and video clips, you can have two different ideas. Yes, people, the mob had to occupy the capital. But if you are for democrats, and you can say that's not acceptable. The mobs are not supposed to do that. Okay? Alright, so both are watching the same news and same video clips, but two different parties can have two different opinions on it. That's nature of hearers. One party and the other party has different nature, different approach, different ideas, different thinkings, right? Since that means news and video clip is not wrong, but there can be different understandings on both parties. Since the teachers of the law had already demonstrated their unbelief and rejection of Jesus, okay, that's the nature of the hearers, those hearers. They revealed the hardened condition of their hearts. Hardened condition of their hearts. Okay? This made them unable to comprehend the meaning of his parables. Whatever he says, I'm not going to believe it. I don't like Jesus. I hate Jesus. I want to kill Jesus. So whatever he say, those gonna be all fake and wrong. This is my stand. This is what I stand on, and then I'm gonna just try to find mistakes from Jesus' teaching, right? And then you're not going to understand what Jesus is teaching, and you're not going to understand what Jesus is telling you with those parables. Actually, this is what's happening. So whenever you spread gospels to people, you can have that kind of experience. They are not ready to listen to you. They don't want to listen from you. They can pretend that you are listening to. I mean, they are listening to you, but in their hearts are resisting from your teachings and your speakings because they don't like a Christian. See? I think you had an experience like that because as Christians you want to spread the gospels to people, but they don't want to hear you. Okay? To give new truths concerning the kingdom. So Jesus wanted to teach and show what the God's kingdom looked like, and he had to use parables. So he wanted just to show the picture of the kingdom, God's kingdom. Okay. So for example, have you ever seen Eiffel Tower in France? Well, have you been there? Have you ever seen the picture or video? Okay. If you haven't seen however, how can I let you imagine the Eiffel Tower? So I have to explain there are black metal things, and I can draw pictures, or I can just explain this and that is a higher than 30-story apartment. Look at that apartment, that is a higher than that, and something like that. I have to explain many things to you, right? Give examples. Because they never thought about the kingdom of God. So when Jesus, told those people about the kingdom of God, he had to explain that, and then he had to use some parables so people could understand that easily. Because that's new for them. Okay? If Bible students do not recognize the emphasis on the kingdom in the parables, they overlook an important key to understanding those stories and why Jesus told them. Okay? When you know your hearers never experience one thing, and you want to just put more energy on explaining, the new stuff to your hearers. So that's why I'm just using the diagrams and some things. So it's gonna be easier for you to understand what the parable is, parables are, and the relationship between main idea and the parables. And the parable means para and balo, and that makes you understand easier, right? Like so, that is way easier than I'm just spreading my words to you. Okay. That's why Jesus used those parables. That is, and especially when Jesus wanted to teach people something new stuff like the kingdom of God, he had to use some parables for that, definitely, and I believe it helped the hearers to understand what Jesus was talking about, the new stuff. All right, 2 guidelines for interpreting parables. So we want to understand and interpret the parable first, and then we can understand the main idea. Even though we understand the main idea, understanding the parables is important, and we can understand the intention of Jesus for using parables. Okay, why we want to understand why Jesus used those parables for that main idea. Okay. So there are guidelines for interpreting parables. A, note the story's natural meaning. Okay. To understand the spiritual truths properly, it is essential for us to comprehend fully the true to life incident, the parable, the story. As you understand the true to life incident of a parable in its full cultural setting, you are better prepared to understand the message of the parable. Okay? What if you don't understand the parables because of the cultural gap and the time gap? 2,000 years, right? At least. And then you're going to get confused to understand the parables, and then you're gonna have a harder time to understand the relationship between the main idea and the parables, and maybe. And what if you don't understand the main idea, or just miss the big part of the main idea? And it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be sad. Okay. B. Determine the specific problem, occasion, question, need, or situation that prompted the parable, seeing why Jesus told certain parables. When he did, helps us understand the truth he's making in the parable. Okay? Determine the specific problem, occasion, question, need, or situation that prompted the parable. I mean, that means these parables are not main idea. Parables are not main thing. You don't want all possible things from the parables and apply all things to the main idea. That can be wrong. That can be wrong. Okay? Because people are using stories and parables because those parables, each parables have certain things to be used for the main idea. Not all things of parables are for main idea. Okay? There can be, some examples are following from this. Okay? Answering a question. For example, in Matthew chapter 9:14, the disciples of John ask, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples fast not?" So Christ gives the parables of the wineskins and garments to show that his ministry is one of joy when he is present. And he is not reforming Judaism, but replacing it with a new phase of his program. So John, the disciples and the Pharisees were focusing on following the law only, but they did, because they couldn't see Jesus right, they couldn't understand who Jesus was, so they were only focusing on following the law, like fasting, but so they couldn't enjoy the presence of Jesus, so they couldn't celebrate that. So Jesus used the parable wine skin because at the time they put the wine in an animal skin. Okay, because wine ripen, when wine ripen, okay, they pour fresh wine in a new animal skin, because as time passes, wine ripens. Like we just put the wine, grape juice in an oak barrel, and we just put that for some years, like sometimes 100 years, or in a bottle or something. They just transfer that to I don't know, in a bottle, from the barrel to a bottle, or They just put that in the bottle. And then the wine skin, the skin, animal skin can get you know kind of getting fragile. So especially the new wine kind of ferment actively compared to the old wine. So they just put the new wine in the new animal skin, wine skin. So what if you pour new wine in an old skin? Because that new wine ferment actively, it's gonna eat up the old skin. It's gonna eat up old skin fast, and then it's gonna get popped. That means whenever you have new things, you have to have new mind, new attitude, new thinking, new manner, new heart, so you can get new stuff, new program in you. If you resist to new stuff as with all the attitude and all the heart, you cannot hold the new stuff. Because new stuff will bother you a lot. You cannot hold it. What is the problem? New wine or old skin? So if you wanna, when Jesus was answering to some questions, he used to use parables for answering them. Number 2, answering a request. The parable of the rich fool in Luke chapter 12 followed the request made by someone in the crowd that Jesus would tell the man's brother to divide their father's inheritance with him. Jesus, Father gave us inheritance, but my brother doesn't want to share enough, so just tell him to divide fairly. And Jesus declined to the arbitrator in that situation and urging people to be on guard against greed. He then told the parables of the rich fool. Okay, I'm rich. I'm gonna build more storage for storing more crops and harvest. And what if that night an angel came to the rich, and the rich are gonna die today or tonight? Your new storages, big storages for storing the new harvest or something like that, it's useless for you. You don't want to be that greedy. Okay? That parable was answering to the request. Because Jesus didn't want to involve in that fighting, and Jesus didn't want to be the judge for that. So he just answering that with the parable, rich fool. And that means you have to be careful, and you want to just stay away from your greediness. Okay. Is that for the person who requests that or for his brother? For both. And that applied to all people. You want to just work hard for getting your food and your assets, but if you are too greedy, you are just doing something, stressful for you, but you don't get anything and you can enjoy everything you have. Okay? I mean, I like Steve Jobs. He did something great. I I don't quite know about himself, but what he did was great. But when you just read the story about Steve Jobs, and it has lots of kind of ugly things of Steve Jobs, but I don't know. I have those dirty things too. I mean, kind of shameful uh, experiences in my life, and I regret many things in my memories. And sometimes I just woke up early in the morning, like at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., and I reminded that, I wasn't supposed to do that, something like that. Well, I don't want to just do it, but it just popped on my mind, and I stayed there for a while. And that's no good habit, and I'm not supposed to make myself ugly and shameful for a long time, because I think I have to let them go, but sometimes it popped on my mind. I can't resist it, and I can control because those are popping on my mind. Okay, but greediness. I mean, people are greedy. All people are greedy. All people have kind of nasty experiences. Um, anyway, we want to just think about the regrets, and and Jesus is telling people that, well, you don't want to just make yourself ugly and with your um, greediness. So think about that too. Three, answering a complaint. Okay, when Jesus was criticized for associating with a sinful woman, he gave the parable of the two debtors. Okay, people wanted to kill a woman because the woman made kind of a sin, and according to the laws, they were supposed to stone um, the woman dying, kind of stoned to death. It's kind of a penalty and was legal, but Jesus said, um, he just wrote down something on the ground, and people just, walk away from the woman. Um, and Jesus just, gave people the parable, the two debtors. One is a debtor was forgiven. Um, let's say it's $100. And right after the debtor got forgiven, so he doesn't have to pay $100 back to the person. As soon as he got from the house and he found, I don't know, I mean, I'm not sorry, I got confused. A person who owed $1 million, for example, $1 million, but the lender just, okay, you don't have to pay that back. $1 million. That's a lot of money, right? You can make $1 million in your life if you want. I mean, if you can. But it's hard to, make $1 million without spending, right? Takes way more time. What if you can save $10,000 a year? $1 million means 100, is it? I don't know. 100? Yeah, 100 years. It takes 100 years. Right? Because if we want to just save $100,000, it takes 10 years. Okay. So $1 million is a lot of money, right? But that is the $1 million that went away. I mean, it's clean. You don't have to pay it back. But the person, as soon as he left the lender's house, he saw, somebody who borrowed $100 from the person, and he just harshed on the debtor who borrowed $100 instead. No $1 million, but $100. But the person got mad on the debtor, and he just did, holy mess things and messy things on the debtor who owed, $100. Okay? That parable means because we owe our debtors to God, okay, $1 million each, but God just, as lender, He just cleaned all the debts. We have $1 million each. How we can be kind of harsh on those people who owed $100 from us. That's what Jesus said. But you don't want to just apply that to all situations. You have to understand what Jesus really meant. We don't want to just generalize that to our lives. Number 4, stating a purpose. Okay, Jesus told a parable of the unjust judge to show his disciples that they should always pray and not give up. Okay? A person had kind of bad situation, so she just begged the judge and begged the judge many times consistently, and the judge got tired of that request, and the judge just answered to the person who requested many times. Okay, then with that parable, Jesus wanted to tell disciples, ask God consistently and pray and don't give up. Ask something what you want, okay? But what you want are supposed to be right and fair or justice. But you really want to have something. You want to pray hard and never give up. You pray every day, okay? You pray 10 years or 20 years, and God will answer to you. Well, God's gonna answer you everything? No. If that is right for God, God will answer to you no matter what. I mean, it's not automated, but how hard do you wanna, how hard do you wanna ask? Asking and praying is important. That's what Jesus is saying. Jesus is not saying that you just ask, God killed somebody you don't like. God is not gonna answer it to you. Well, depends on situations, but God will not answer to those kind of wrong prayer. If you want to be a medical doctor or a lawyer and you just work hard and you just pray hard, and it can take, like 5 years or 10 years, 20 years, and you're gonna get it. And God will gonna answer to you. If God really wants to give that to you. That's what Jesus is saying. Okay? Don't give up. Pray hard and don't give up. 5. Parables of a kingdom. Because of Israel's rejection of Jesus, 7 kingdom parables are given in Matthew chapter 13. These parables are significant in that they follow Matthew chapter 12, which records the rejection of Jesus by the Pharisees and the accusation that he was doing his miracles in the power of Satan. Okay, people would say, "Oh, Jesus made lots of miracles because he's the son of Satan, not son of God." And Jesus gave some parables to those people. When Satan is fighting with Satan, I mean, when people, two family members are fighting each other, can that house be prosper? No, because Satan is there, but Jesus was fighting against Satan because he just cast away the demons out of people, right? That means Jesus was fighting against Satan, and he just repelled the demons out of the people, and he defeated Satan lots of times. But people are saying Jesus is the son of Satan. That doesn't make sense. One little simple parable was right answer to those people. 6. Parables following an exhortation or principle. Several times Jesus gave an exhortation or principle and then followed it with a parable to illustrate or illuminate the point just made. For example, Mark 13:33 records that Jesus said, "Be on guard, be alert. You do not know when the time will come." Then he gave the parable of the doorkeeper. We don't know when Jesus is going to come back again, the second coming of Jesus. Because we don't know it, we are supposed to stay in prayer mountain and wait until he comes? No. That's not what Jesus wanted us. Okay? Jesus wants us to just do our works, live our daily lives, but don't forget Jesus' second coming and welcome Jesus when Jesus comes again. Okay? But Jesus is gonna come back soon, so we don't have to work hard or whatever. We don't need to make money because Jesus is coming. So we just go, just stay together and live in the churches or something like that. That's what cults are doing. That's what cults are saying. Those are all cults. Those are all heresies. Because Jesus didn't do that, and Jesus didn't tell us to do so. Then why we are just following those crooked people. Those are deceivers. Those are Satans. Jesus never told us just give up everything. It's been 2,000 years, but he hasn't come yet. What if Christians followed all the heresies and Satans and cults and they all died without doing anything? Just staying in churches or upon the prayer things and that's not smart. Parables are followed by an expectation or a principle. Sometimes you just gave a parable and then followed it with an expectation or principle. For example, the parable of the friend at midnight is followed by his expectation for them to persist in prayer. Okay? Okay? So we want to just pray. Because your friends have a guest and you just knock your friend's door, okay, again and again and again, and your friend's gonna answer to you maybe because he loves you or he just hated to hearing the knocking. Okay? Oh my goodness. I'm gonna just give him whatever he wants me to do, whatever he wants me to give, because I'm just sick and tired with the knocking. If I don't give what he wants, and he's gonna knock the door all night, and I'm not gonna sleep well. It's a little simple, parable, but it shows that you wanna just pray. You want to just keep on praying. Because God loves us. God even just, called Abraham his friend. Right? And Moses. Isn't it wonderful? So we can just ask, keep on asking. Okay? Parables to illustrate a situation. Jesus introduced let me finish this. Parables to illustrate a situation. Jesus introduced the parable of the two houses by pointing out that anyone who heard his words and put them into practice was like the man building a house on a rock. I want to just explain that next week. 9 parables with a purpose implied but not stated. The parable of the seed growing secretly is not stated, but it seems to suggest a rapid numerical growth of the believers during the present age, and not only that, it shows that what kind of heart you have as listeners to Jesus. If you listen to your Jesus and Bibles and the Gospels, and you want to just do whatever you can't, that depends on your heart. Okay. All right. That's all today. I'm gonna just finish this next week and keep on and move on to the next topic.